Okay, we are live on another edition of the Edlow podcast. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. This is another one that's really exciting for me. This is one of the more motivational guys that got me kind of going on my health and fitness journey. And him and some of my other friends in wrestling have really just kind of helped me along. And I know he's helped a lot of people along. I have the Superbeast. Superbeast, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Mr. Edlow. Thank you for having me, everyone.
Yeah, there you go. Jazz hands. Like it. Yeah. Well, let's get on started. I want to, you are so, I find you very fascinating because you started here in NorCal with us. You started here in NorCal training in Sacramento. That's where I'm from. Are you from Sacramento or how did that come about?
Originally, it's where I was born, yeah.
Okay. All right. What part of Sac?
All of it. I lived all over the thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, south side, north side, out in Carmichael, out in Rio Linda. I lived all around Sacramento and Sacramento County.
Did you go to high school in Sac?
Yeah, I went to a few of them. I was one of those troubled kids. Went to continuation schools. I was always getting expelled and shit.
Okay.
I'm a bad kid.
Well, I don't think there is such a thing as bad kids, but I get what you're saying. So tell me.
I was the hellian.
Yeah, well, most guys in wrestling were. So how did wrestling become part of your story?
Shit, I mean, it goes back to like anyone else is going to tell you. Like I was a kid, I was into wrestling. I watched wrestling. Mainly Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. That was my childhood. Then going into my teenage years during the Attitude Era, like me and my buddies used to get drunk and just fucked up and watch freaking SmackDown every Thursday or Monday or Raw on Monday. But we would I was a huge I liked Stone Cold and I was a Rock fan, but I was a wrestling fan. We'd just get drunk and we'd wrestle in the living room. And if you go stalking my social medias, there's pictures of me like when I'm 16, 17, 18 years old doing living room and backyard wrestling, drunk with my friends. Not that we knew what we were doing or we were making. It was cool back then. We were just having fun.
Yeah. So that time frame, backyard wrestling, was there a specific, because I did that too back in the 90s.
But it wasn't a fed. It was just, we would just get drunk, watch SmackDown, and then destroy the living room and destroy the front yard. There was no fans, no friends. It was just like me and 3, 4, maybe 5 of my buddies. Sometimes there'd be 8 of us that would get drunk, smoke a lot of fucking weed. We'd spend all day playing, playing Super Nintendo, WCW versus NWO, things like that. Then, WrestleMania 2000, play that. Then, SmackDown would come on and we'd be drinking, smoking pot, and then we'd be slamming each other.
Yeah.
Like
well, moving around a lot. Did you live with your mom, your dad? How did that?
I was a group home kid.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you kind of went through the system.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You ever end up at the receiving home?
I did. I did. Actually, I got my nephew. He lives with me now. He joined the Marines, but I got him out of the receiving home when he was a kid. Had custody. I lived there, and I got custody of my nephew out of there.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I was on
Very
the board.
Familiar with it.
I was on the board of the receiving home for years, and so, what was your experience like while you were there?
It was shitty. It was during the late '80s, early '90s.
Mm-hmm.
It was different. It was only Oaks 1 and Oaks 2 back then.
Mm-hmm.
And they had Acorns for the kids, but it was like, I don't think you had to be certified or get any classes to work there to be a staff member. You just got the job, and like restraining kids was just sometimes a little on the brutal side. Like I got the shit slammed out of me a few times. I got fucked up, but whatever.
Yeah, but you survived.
Life isn't fair,
Yeah.
I don't have a sob story, so it's all learning lessons for me.
Well, that's what I think is so interesting is that a lot of people in your position hearing that story would kind of have a victim mentality and people could understand.
Yeah, life sucks, dude. Life isn't fair. Life is fucking hard. It's always been that way, and it'll always be that way. There's no magical time. There's no magical lump sum of cash. There's no Prince Charming or, some distant relative coming to save me. There never has been. One thing I do know is I can outwork life. I can outwork problems. I can outwork the things that go wrong. And
Yeah.
if I'm always working and I'm always staying ahead, I mean, things go wrong. I'm not invincible. Bad shit happens in my life just like it does everyone else's. Engines on cars blow up.
Mm.
Injuries happen. Family members get sick, or have to get surgeries. It happens, but that's life, and life is
Mhm.
hard. Unless you're gonna live your life in a fucking bubble in your living room and never go outside. But even still, bad things will happen.
Mhm.
It's the inevitable. Bad is the inevitable. The
Mhm.
only thing you can do is just stay ahead of it.
Mhm. So, in staying ahead of it, what kind of things do you do to stay ahead of that?
I don't waste time. I get up at 3:30 in the morning. I don't mean just to work out. Like, I don't watch TV. I don't play video games. I don't hang out. All I do, I'm constantly working on something, whether it's
Mhm.
making money, getting bookings, doing laundry, painting. Like just now, I had to take a break because I'm painting the front of my house. And so I
Oh,
just flew in the other day. I've been on tour for 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks. I'm only home for I think 3 days. And I came in, did laundry and painting my house. I had the plumber come today. Uh, I'm gonna go work on my hot rods. I'm gonna finish working on an engine swap in the back on my trike. I'm gonna work out a bunch of times. Make sure all my bills are paid ahead. My stock drawers organized. Like I'm constantly working. There's no waste of time. From the time I get up to the time I go to bed, I'm working on something. I
and
never
it
sit.
and the thing is tell me, like, what I find really fascinating. I'm a Mormon, and we have a lot of volunteers in our church. And one thing that always strikes me is the people who are the busiest are the ones who get like, if you ask somebody to volunteer who's super busy, they get more done than somebody who has the actual time to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because we're always in a rush.
Yeah, right,
Not in a rush. It's not a rush. Is a bad. I just have things to do. I always
right.
have things to do, and if I waste time, those things to do are still gonna build up. But also, like I said, life's not fair. Life sucks. Bad things happen too. So if I'm not staying on top of my p's and q's, crossing my t's and dotting my i's, being all nonchalant and procrastinating life, if you will, all it takes is one or two bad things to come along to really cause a bad domino effect and knock things out of whack. And I see it happen all the time, every day. I mean, just people I know, women I date, some of my best friends, I watch their life and it's just like this fragile house of glass. And I'm like, hey man, you should probably get this shit more secure, more squared away before something fucking happens. I'm like, yeah, bro, it's cool, I got it. I'll do it later, I'll do it tomorrow. And that shit happens, their life's falling apart. And I'm like, fuck, I fucking told you so.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
if I see my friends' lives are a mess, if they're willing to listen, because I'm not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a rocket scientist. I don't got the fucking secrets of the universe. I use horrible language. I'm a C student at best.
Mhm.
But if I could see something about my friends, like if they're slacking or they could do something better, or they're making life mistakes, I'll tell them, like, hey, you need to stop doing this. If you cut X, Y, and Z out and replace it with A, B, and C, you're gonna have a different progression in life over time. In the next, I'd say 3 months, there'll be a noticeable, whether it be financial, mental, emotional, or a combination of them all. There's like little weird formulas of life that I like to apply, and they don't work for everybody. Some people think I'm stupid and crazy. Other people will tell you that I'm, you know, the best dude in the world to have on your side, the best confidant. They'll tell you how to make money and how to go places.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people, but then again, there's also people out in the business that call me a delusional, and I'm a delusional vet that's never done anything or no really. I mean, that's cool. Maybe I am. I mean, I never said I was everything, but if I always say if I am the delusional vet, what does that make the local guy that's never really done anything?
Right. No,
I mean, just on
I
their. I mean, just on the. I'm not even taking it as an insult, but I mean, I'm willing to take the position they give me. But according to their own unit of measurement, where do they fall exactly? Considering
Mhm.
most of them, the person talking to me like, you never done shit. Like he doesn't have a car. They live on a couch, or they have, their woman is heinously ugly if they even have a woman. They drive a piece of shit car if they even have a car. And it'll just like, so if I'm Joe Nobody, I'll accept that. But if I'm nobody, where are we falling with you? Like non-existent?
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. And let me ask you though, this mentality you have, has it always been like that, or
Yeah.
did something click? You just have always been
No,
that way?
just dude, life's always sucked. Like I should be a crackhead. I should be in prison. I should be homeless. Like, just statistically speaking, I wasn't supposed to end up the way I am with the life that I have. And for that, the things that I do have, I'm grateful. You know, even in wrestling, like I got into wrestling, like I tell everyone this, and everyone's like, "Oh, you love it, like you." No, I love wrestling. I've always been a huge wrestler, and I wanted to be a wrestler. I was a wannabe wrestler, you know. And when I knew that I was getting into it, I had low expectations for myself. Like in my mind, you know, I was going to be wrestling in Sacramento in front of, you know, 13 people, 20 people at a VFW for free beer, or I'd be working for free, you know, getting a hot dog at SPW, you know, in front of no, you know, not little doing little to nothing, you know, no opponents. But it didn't happen that way, you know, like it didn't, and it wasn't like I just worked out. I wanted to be good at it, you know, I wanted to be good at what I did. I wanted to have fun with it. And then just one day I looked up and it started blowing up. Mainly when I got out of California, I got out of NorCal. Most of the rest of the world doesn't even consider that my career existed until 2019 when I left California, because like I just didn't exist. I wasn't on a radar. I never got to kind of push, you know, flyer time. Didn't really get a lot of bookings. You know, just kind of hidden. You know, no, my matches were never posted. Essentially, the world had no idea I existed. Second, I left California, got to Las Vegas, I blew up. I was instantly into Japan. You know, it was in the Philippines, East Coast, West Coast, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, all over Mexico. You know, me and Mecha Wolf are running here. You know, me hanging out with Ricky Banderas over there. Burro Del Rio and the Dos Caras family. They adopted me. You know, it just all these weird things with life started happening. Like Ronnie Coleman. I don't know if you know Ronnie Coleman. He's eight-time Mr. Olympia. Ronnie Coleman. He FaceTimed me my last birthday. He's one of my friends now.
Wow.
It's not just wrestling. It's exceeded the world of wrestling, even the world of music, where, you know, Glenn Danzig, you know, I'm on a first name basis. Doyle loves me. I'm like his nephew. You know, Henry Rollins knows who I am on a first name basis. Like, hey, what's up, Superbeast? Or hey, Chris. You know, and it's like, it's really weird because I'm grateful for what I have, because I had such low expectations in the beginning. And to come to where I'm at now, it's like, it's not just the icons in wrestling I looked up to, like knowing Hulk Hogan and working with him, or, you know, going to Triple Manias, or, you know, doing this NWA. There's just all this big stuff. You know, it's like, and like these names, these people like Vampiro, they all know who I am. They're all my friends now. And I used to watch these guys on TV, or I used to read about them in workout magazines, or I used to listen to their music and do curls. Have a poster of Doyle on the Misfits with Doyle all shredded. I'm like 13 years old doing curls. Like, man, I want to be jacked like this dude. I'm going to be big like Doyle one day. And
Man.
you know, he's my buddy.
Yeah, you know, so there's so many things I want to talk about there, but the first I want to start with is the wrestling part. Why is it like the first time I saw you, you were clearly bigger and looked more like a wrestler than anybody else. I mean, on the roster.
Yeah.
Why was no? I mean, and you know, you came. Were you around the same time as like Kratos and Brian
Oh
Reed and all
yeah.
those guys?
Oh no, I'm
Yeah,
from the same generation. I
yeah.
just was kept on a back burner in a security shirt at SPW for 2 years. You know, even though
What?
I started getting booked on, you know, other states like in Oklahoma, Texas, and other places, like I just was more or less kept on the back burner. I got a little bit of love when I left Sacramento and went to Oakland to train over at
Mhm,
Stoner U with Dustin and Derek Mel, the Stoner brothers, also known as the Suburban Commandos. Coach Snugs was there. That was the same class that Shotzi Blackheart was in, and Manny Favorino.
mhm,
You know,
mhm,
Tresario was there. There was a lot of good guys, good workers, and I started doing hood slam. And I mean, old school hood slam when it was really grungy underground. Connor Body started putting me on, and it was just a good place where I cut my teeth, and I really started getting good. And then I got to love it, hood slam. Hood slam did take care of me. That was one of the companies around. I'm
but
not saying
why?
all the companies were bad. I'm just
Yeah,
saying my
but
experience with a few of them, I was just like, in the general culture, the work culture of the business in California, NorCal specifically, is real just shady, cutthroaty, and I mean it's like that in all wrestling, but it's just NorCal has its own unique kind of
yeah, you know, it's interesting to me
deception, its own
because
unique art of deception to it with fake friendships. Like there's so many it's a bunch of fake friends that are friends with each other. Like it's a band of weak people. Not everyone. Don't, I'm not classifying everyone or every company. I'm just saying it's a general cultural mindset. and everyone's just really quick to turn on anybody to get ahead. Everyone will turn on you for something eventually, whether it's money, drugs, a spot, women, your
Mhm.
woman.
Mhm.
It just
Mhm.
and it's very just fake. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. But keep in mind, I also have a lot of great friends there. I'm not saying that's everybody. And it's not
Yeah.
every company. There's some good companies like, Best of the West. It's in Fresno. West Coast Pro is freaking awesome. Those dudes, those guys know what they're doing. They're running things right. Some are questionable. Some I don't do. I've never had dealings with, but the general culture there and the mindset of the egos, and it's very buddy buddy. Like you said, I looked like a real pro wrestler, but I wasn't buddy buddy with anybody. I wasn't kissing anybody's ass or trying to hang out at the barbecues or trying to be a part of a club. I'd just go train, I'd go home. I had my own life, my own money to make outside of wrestling, and a lot of that was why I didn't go anywhere. Or I wasn't seen or pushed or even talked about.
And I think there's some power to that. And what I mean by that is look, we all know those guys who they do, they do wrestling and it's literally all that, like their whole identity is wrapped up in it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Their whole identity is wrapped up in indie wrestling in Northern
you
California.
take the wrestling away, this is them as a person. You take the wrestling away from the person, all of a sudden they become nothing.
Right. And it's like
Yeah,
they're
without the wrestling, without some kind of like status, which is like this is where NorCal's weird because they think wrestling's like a union. Like
Mhm.
the longer you stand around, the more years you have just standing in one spot or one territory, the more seniority you get and the more value you have. And that's not wrestling. That's not how wrestling's designed at all. Wrestling's very much a contractor based. Who's the best at doing it.
Yeah.
It
Well, and on
doesn't
top
matter. Time's irrelevant. It's just who's the best at doing it.
of that also it's I mean, I remember when I was promoting wrestling, this is a little bit before, I promoted from probably 2009 to like 2013. I did SWF and I remember telling guys, I would be like, I'm interested in the guys that actually put butts in seats. You know what I mean? Like I don't care how long you've been around. If you look like a wrestler and you put on a good show, you could be wrestling for 6 months or you could be wrestling for 20 years. I really don't care. Uh, and it just didn't seem like that a lot of the time with some of the other places. I don't know, but like when you were going through there, what did you think? Was it hard to? I mean, what do you think it was about you that they didn't want to promote you like they did Brian and JR and these other guys?
Um, Jr. got a good push. I mean, Jr. was a good dude. Cage is a good guy. Me, I just wasn't nice. I wasn't buddy buddy. Like
Mm-hmm.
I clearly I'm coming to work and I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, my name's Chris. Great to meet you. We're probably not hanging out outside of this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's just was my approach. So it kind of, it doesn't rub people right. That and just being like I said, like I had a look, and there's still a lot of egos in NorCal, especially when there's promoters that wear their own belts and
Mm-hmm.
just push themselves extra hard. They're trying to get when there are opportunities. If you are networked and opportunities do come down, normally in an egotistical environment, the egos will put themselves in situations or put their buddies in situations,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be like a WWE look or a movie thing or a commercial, whatever it is. They'll put their people on them on over ego. They're not going to put the best guy for the job on. They're going to put themselves over or try to put their buddies over, even though those are the guys that have no traction to go anywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a grip on the tire. They got no
Right.
tread.
Yeah, that's
You know,
interesting.
I call it wasting opportunities. I was like, it's like it's being a gatekeeper, trying to pick and choose who gets seen, and there's a lot of gatekeeping.
Mm. So, what is different outside of NorCal for those wrestlers who may be in NorCal and are thinking to branch out? What have you seen as the differences elsewhere versus in NorCal?
It's not as cutthroat, mainly because California is oversaturated. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
so many wrestling schools, so many wrestling promotions, so many. It's drowning. You know what I mean? There's just too much, and I think because of that, it makes it more of a cutthroat environment. And California in general is like an entitled, cutthroat place.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
you got to base it off wrestling. It's a bunch of egotistical people in an egotistical based business. And I can't speak any better for myself on that. 'Cause we all have to have some degree of ego to be in this. There has to be some degree of like moral standards you almost compromise to be here, and
Hmm.
entertainment it is. With
Yeah.
all the, especially the higher up the ladder you go.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, so tell me what you did. So you get out of NorCal, you go to Vegas. You strike me as somebody who you don't let it happen, you make it happen. So
Yeah.
so tell me what you did when you got out of NorCal that started getting you these looks.
Oh, when I got out of NorCal, I was easier to fly, easier to like travel because I was in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Plane tickets to and from Las Vegas are exceptionally cheap, and at the
Mm-hmm.
time, so was the living. This is like pre-COVID, pre-pandemic when I moved here. So in order for me to come here, it wasn't expensive. Once I got here, it was cheap for me to live here, cheap for me to get established, get my feet in. It was also cheap to get me in and out of here. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that was like the big step right there, because a lot of people like, oh, we'd love to book you, but you're in Sacramento, and Sacramento's a connecting airport, so I have to
Mm-hmm.
connect somewhere. So my tickets are always $600-700 sometimes, depending
Mm-hmm.
on where in America I was going, and that turned a lot of promoters off. There's like to be some kind of compromise on that, but then when I moved, it was like those tickets now dropped to like $300.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking. You know what I mean? So now that opened a lot of doors, and I just went out and I did my job. I showed up, I killed it. I showed a lot, sold a lot of merch, got
Mm-hmm.
over with the crowd, sold tickets. Ticket sales always jump when I work. Pretty much any show I go to, there's about a 25 to 30% jump in ticket sales, even if
Mm-hmm.
I've never worked that region before. I got my own little cult following now, so it's kind of awesome. I've worked
Yeah.
everywhere,
Yeah.
and I'm
And
still
where
working everywhere. It's not like I had like a peak of my career and I fell off. I went up and I'm still going.
yeah. So are there places that you are hoping to get looks that you haven't yet? Is there places that you're looking to go, or you just wherever you go,
Wherever they
you'll
got the money, man. Like I'm not a. This is where I'm not. I don't share the same mindset with the modern day wrestler. Like, I'm trying to get signed. I need a contract. They're so wrapped up in being famous, they forgot about getting paid. And there's a lot of contracts for a lot of these top companies are pay by appearance. And if you ain't
Mhm.
appearing, you don't get paid. Problem is you can't work anywhere else either because you're under contract.
Mhm.
Or if you move to Orlando, a lot of these kids I'm hearing like they're making like less than like $22,000 a year. So yeah,
Mhm.
they might have a contract, but they still have to get a part-time job to survive. And I
Mhm.
just don't share that mindset. I'm more of the lines like I don't give a fuck who knows who I am. I don't care if you know me. You don't like anything about me. You want to cancel me? Great, cool, awesome. Make
Mhm.
sure you spell my name right. All I care about is if I'm getting paid.
Right.
And as long as I'm getting paid, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know,
So now
I'll work in
going,
front of 3 people or 30,000 people. As
yeah.
long as there's a paycheck. What I won't do is work for cheap, and I won't work for free.
Right. Right. Now, are there do you ever run into other NorCal guys and some of the stuff you do and some of these people that
No,
you
they don't. They don't work where I work. They're all still in NorCal. Most of them,
right. Right.
especially the snaky ones. With the bigger the ego, the less the mileage.
Right.
Most of the people that got in my way, stood in my way, they've never been anywhere that I've been.
Mhm.
They're never gonna be in the locker rooms I'm in.
Mhm.
We're not going to
Mhm.
be in the same circles I'm in, the same booking meetings I'm in. They're never going to get the same payouts that I get.
Mhm.
Now
Mhm.
they're there, I'm here. People, have an ego, have a career. Have an opinion, have a career.
Yeah. Well, now going backwards, we talked a lot about wrestling and what you've done. Well, let's stay on wrestling for a minute before we go anywhere else. What has been in your mind of all the bookings that you've done? Is there one that sticks out? You're like, wow, kind of pinch myself that I got there.
Yeah,
Yeah. What
yeah.
was that?
It's when I main evented FMW in Tokyo. No, it was in
Mhm.
Kawasaki, Japan, against Onita.
Mm.
And it was a Japanese landmine death match, and I'm like one of only a handful of Americans that's ever hit Onita. You know who Onita is?
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm one of the handful of only a few Americans that's actually hit him with an exploding baseball bat. So I'm down in history books for that in Japan.
Wow.
I mean, pinnacle wise, like the biggest thing I've ever done was that. I mean, I've wrestled Bobby Lashley, I've wrestled Black Taurus, I've
Mhm.
wrestled Cage, I've wrestled a lot of names, a lot of big people. I've done a lot. Been to the Triple A's, you
Mhm.
know. But I would think the biggest thing, like monumental thing, would be me hitting Onita with an exploding baseball bat and a Japanese landmine death match main eventing FMW
That's
in
awesome.
Japan, and that was about
Yeah,
2 years ago, a little over 2.5 years ago.
man. So, and I've also noticed that you seem to do a lot of work in Mexico.
Yeah,
And how did that come about?
that's
Like
what I
like
look like. I mean, my picture circulates.
uh-huh.
I mean, that pretty much was the story of my career. How I got started getting booked. It wasn't how good I could, because there really was no footage. Nobody had any matches out. It was my pictures,
Mhm.
pictures of me online just looking jacked, scary, or slamming someone crazy.
Uh-huh.
And that's what circulated first. And in
Mhm.
Mexico, they started going through there, and they're like, "God, this is a big American lucha," And then Mecca had reached out to me
Mhm.
and said, "These guys are, want you to come on down." And then I started going down, and
Mhm.
I worked with Del Rio and his brother Dos Caras, and that was down in Mexico. We hit up a good program, and took me and his family, and they just started taking me on the road. And Del Rio had me on TV for Nacion Lucha Libre. I was the fastest growing heel in Mexico on TV in 2022.
Man.
That's when
Yeah.
I started walking out of the arenas, and I'd go out front, where they sell all the little, they got the little markets where they sell everything, and
Mhm.
they had Superbeast masks like out
Wow.
there. Like the people were selling Superbeast masks. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So where do you see, your wrestling career? You're still growing. Another thing I like about you and what I appreciate about you and what's so inspirational is, you're my age. Even a little bit older than me, and yet you're getting all these bookings. I mean, do you feel like you feel good? You feel healthy? You feel like you can keep going doing this stuff?
Dude, I thought I was going to quit 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Just and I mean to quit every year, because no, my body's wrecked, dude. Like I am always in pain. I've had knee surgeries. I've torn both my biceps, different occasions, all
Hmm.
surgeries. I mean, even just this weekend, I blew my knee out wrestling Cahagas in Oklahoma, the Tokyo Monster Cahagas.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
we went and had a huge thing, and like right out the gate, I popped my knee, and then did the whole match with them. So I'm still hobbling around, but I mean, I'm in good health, I guess, for my age. I'm 44,
Uh-huh.
and I still train, nonstop. I've worked out my entire life. I've never had a bad habits, really.
Uh-huh.
You know,
So your workout, let's talk about your workout. A typical day for you, are you doing it all in one shot or are you doing it two? How do you do it?
I mean, sometimes I do only work out once a day, and if I do, I have my own little program for that. But normally, what I
Hmm.
do is I get up about 3 in the morning, take a shower, get ready, pack my gym bag, and only by 4:45, I'm at the gym. Fasted,
Hmm.
I don't eat. Do about 45 minutes to an hour of cardio.
Hmm.
It's good pace, listening to music, drinking water. Do about 10 minutes of core work, 10, 15 minutes, like abs, core, on a
Hmm.
machine or on the mats. Then I go down to the sauna for about 20, 25 minutes and sweat, and then I walk home,
Hmm.
about a 20-minute walk home. And then in the afternoons, I'll get a ride, I'll get dropped off again, and I'll do about 15, 20 minutes of cardio, about 10 minutes more core work, and then about 45 minutes to an hour weight training. And I don't train heavy. Like I don't lift heavy weight. I don't bench press a lot of weight, or I gave up all the heavy lifting in my 30s. Now it's just sets and reps, mobility drills, flexibility, balance, hand-eye coordination, just to maintain. And then I go to the sauna for about 20 minutes, and then I walk home.
Man. So I,
In the evening, we have wrestling practice here. I got a ring at my house.
oh,
I
nice.
have a couple people come over, and we train a few days a week. Just nothing crazy. We don't do a lot of bumps, but more just drills and ring
Mhm.
cardio, rolls, and stretching, and practicing spots. And
Man. So it surprises me given your look that you don't lift heavy.
I
So
used to, I
yeah.
used
Uh-huh.
when I was bigger.
Is that how you got big, is lifting heavy?
Yeah, I mean, I was huge when I first got into wrestling. I was about 280 pounds. Like I was
Uh-huh.
massive. I was built I was huge, way
Okay.
bigger than I am now. I wasn't lean like I am now, but I
Mhm.
was, I was huge. I was deadlifting everything. I was powerful. I could throw a body across, from one side of the ropes to the other like it was nothing. It was no thing. My I mean, I had my agility and stuff still because I've been agile since a child,
Mhm.
but my conditioning was horrible. So
Mm.
with time, after I vomited, because I vomited my mask. I don't know if you've ever had a closed mask and you puke in it. Like you get so blown up, you just like right in your mask. So vomit would just go everywhere, like in my eyes, up my nose, and my ears. It was horrible. But so with time, it just kind of dawned on me that being overly huge probably wasn't the best idea. And I already knew I have other abilities. Like, so I'm still very aerial. I'm acrobatic and flexible. And I was like, I don't have to be a powerhouse. I could just drop 40, 50 pounds and still be a powerhouse, but be an
Mhm.
agile powerhouse because there's not a lot of that. So that's
Right.
what I did.
Nice. And do you feel like as you're getting older that that's been more helpful for you? Because
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
being heavy is so bad on your joints too. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
that's
your heart.
yeah, man. So now, so we talked about your workout. Want to go back because you have a military background, and how did that come about? I mean, you being a hellion, what made you want to join the military?
I don't have shit going on in life. I was a system kid. I got out. I had nothing. I think I was doing concrete by day. I was 18 years old. I was a concrete worker by day, and I worked a round table pizza by night, and I still wasn't getting by. Still wasn't
Mm,
making a lot of money, and I wasn't going anywhere. And I knew I wasn't gonna amount to shit if I stayed
mm,
in Sacramento. No
mm,
family, no education, no nothing. There's nothing.
mm,
Just I was
mm.
just a kid trying to survive in a grown up's world.
Yeah,
So I just had to do something, and I knew that if I could do this, at least I could get some kind of college out of it, or they had the house loan, or there were benefits, and I was like, I might be a good soldier too, so I'd get paid to just work out instead of doing concrete and making pizza. So
right.
I joined the army.
So you chose the army. What made you choose the army versus one of the other?
I wanted to be a soldier,
Okay.
and
What year?
this is back in 2000.
Uh-huh.
99, 1999, back in 99.
Hmm. Hmm.
I had joined the army. It was before 9/11 happened. We
Mm,
weren't no wars had kicked off yet. It was still peacetime.
mm,
I remember when that happened too. Jesus, I was in the chow hall. They had the thing going on, and they had the planes flying into the twin towers, and like everything's going into full alert. I was like a private first class at the time. Like, is this real?
yeah,
Is this real?
man. Yeah. So now, how long did you serve?
8 years, about 8 years.
Okay. And so you, I'm sure you had some
Nine.
deploy. I'm sure you
Yeah,
had some deployments.
I deployed 03 to 04 and 05 to 06 to Iraq.
Okay. And tell me what that was like.
The first time was pretty awesome. It was like the Wild West. We because there was no like structure.
Mm,
There was no water supply. There was no food supply. It was just like we went out there and we took Taji Airfield, and it was like this is where we're at. And like
uh-huh.
we just started growing beards, and it's like we'd get water where we could, and like we'd make deals with local farmers and get goats, and we'd shoot the goats, and we'd skin them, gut them, and eat the goat, cook goat
Man.
up. It was just very savage, very wild. Homemade gyms. Then as the it grew. Taji Airfield grew. We had like full gyms, chow halls eventually, but it was just cool doing convoy security and whatnot, and going on the road. Then my second deployment, I was based out of Warhorse, and we did convoy security all over Iraq. So I got to
Mm,
see everything. I got shot at all the time. Got blown up once.
mm,
And it could get crazy, but I was able to see all this crazy shit and all these crazy war zones, and you get all these crazy firefights, and
yeah.
it was just very extreme and very much what I think at the time of my life what I was looking for. And
Uh-huh.
not that I had any political point of view or any moral compass to it. It was just more of the lines of like I wanted to be a warrior, and I trained really really hard to be
Hmm.
one. And I've always had that mindset since a child.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Now, when you're going in there and you said you got blown up once, so tell me, do you mind telling me what happened there?
Yeah, we're right outside of Dodgy Airfield, going towards Biop, and we got
Hmm.
IED'd, and I got shrapnel right here in the side, and got some little pepper holes. Got a
Oh,
little bleed
wow.
in the back of my head, and Good times.
Yeah, man. So now, so in this time, I mean, do you have friends that got caught up, get passed away, stuff like
Oh
that?
yeah, no, I had friends that died deployed while we were there, and even after I got out, they gone back another time and ended up dying. You know,
Mm,
it just happens. You know, it just fucking happens.
yeah. Wow.
Life's
How have
hard.
you?
You know?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people they come back and they have uh PTSD and they really struggle with that.
We all got PTSD, but I always say like this, like we knew what we were signing up for. I knew what I signed up for when I went. I was hoping there was a war. You know, like
Mm,
I went. It's not like I don't have a sob story of like, oh, and this, and like it was what I signed up to do. You know, it
mhm,
was the experience that I cognitively wanted to have as a man to help grow. You know, and I was able to get it. Do I
mhm,
regret it? No.
mm. But as far as like symptoms and things that people
Yeah,
struggle with, nightmares, stuff like that, you deal with
yeah,
some of that?
yeah. I do. You know, it's I don't sleep a lot. You know, and I'm a very if you talk to some of my friends or people who've known me for a significant amount of years, is I'm very reactive.
Mm,
You
mhm,
know,
mhm.
especially to other people or combatants, if you will, or
Right.
attitude. Like I'm very reactive. Like just shit. I
Uh,
just so I don't go out a lot. You know, I don't drink.
so you don't drink.
No.
Has that been how long you've been sober?
Oh, what?
I'm going to go pick up Ian. The packages on the counter.
Okay. Yeah, there's three on the counter. My bad.
That's all right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were on the phone.
Yeah, I'm doing a podcast.
Not a problem.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, my
Life still
food's on the
happens.
porch. I want it, but
Life still happens even on a podcast, so that's okay. So, what were we talking about? Can't remember what we were talking about. Man, what were we talking about?
life's hard. You know, like
Yeah.
people die. You know, it's especially in this. I mean, it's one thing when I'm not saying like I'm cold hearted, to the world, but like in a situation like war, or joining the military and going to a combat zone, a battlefield. You know, it's the inevitable. Like which you signed up for it, especially if you're combat arms. It's like an unspoken thing we all know. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like, and normally the guys that have PTSD and whine a lot, they weren't in the infantry. They weren't field artillery. They're guys that were like cooks, or they were
mhm,
MPs, or I was a truck driver. Or I was this, but we were mortar, and I have PTSD now. And if you ask them what their job was, it's almost normally combat support. You ask any combat arms guy, it's just like, dude, especially the deeper into combat arms you go, the closer to the conflict, closer to
mhm,
the crazy, closer to the suck. Like it just
mhm,
whatever, man. Like it's if it happens, it happens. I'd rather not. I don't. Why think about it? Why stress? It's what I signed up for. It's what I have an life insurance policy for.
mhm. It's interesting talking to people who have been to Iraq. There's a lot of people with a lot of different views of the world, the Middle East and the world. You were there, you saw it. I mean, I'm assuming you ran into a lot of different people, ran into
Yeah,
people who are in some of these groups that are, described as terrorist groups.
yeah.
Your view of the people over there, what can you tell us about what it's really like over there?
With Iraq, well, I mean, it's an ideology. I mean, not the country. I mean,
Uh-huh.
you got to think like whether you're talking about Taliban or the old Iraqi Republican Guard. I mean, they're it's Islam. It's a religion. It's a belief.
Mhm,
It's you can't beat that. You can't go to war with a religion. It's just impossible. It's
mhm,
like going to war with a god. You can't defeat a god as long as there's human beings that walk the earth. They'll believe in that god.
mhm,
That belief it won't go anywhere. Um, I mean, it wasn't.
mhm,
I mean, we weren't at war with the Iraqis. We had
mhm,
taken the country. For whatever. I don't. I'm not going to get wrapped up into he said, she said political things. I just had a job to do. I needed a job. I had to get out of Sacramento, so there I was.
mhm, mhm. Now,
But
when you get out and you come back, did you come back to Sacramento? So,
no,
okay, all right.
no,
Where did you end up?
I got out of the army. I was stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma at the time, and I didn't want to go home, so I drove east.
Mm,
I didn't
okay.
with no destination. I had a backpack full of clothes, an automatic shotgun, a thing of body armor, a handgun, a
Mhm.
box of MREs, and I just drove east. And I'd get jobs at some dive bars, to work some places, rent a room. I had like a pillow and a blanket, and very nomadic. I'd stay for a
Mm,
few weeks, maybe a few months. Then I'd get on the road again, drive, roll into another town, rent a room, get a job doing security. I did that all the way up till I ended up in Watertown, New York, way up in
hmm,
upstate New York.
hmm.
And then from there, I just left one day and drove back to California.
Man. So what prompted you for wanting to do that? Just not wanting to go home, so just trying to see where you ended up?
I wanted to see life.
Hmm.
I had to know. I had to know what was out there. So,
So what did you find out there? What did you kind of learn from that experience? How
people,
long were you out there doing
I
that?
was traveling about a year and a half.
Yeah. And what did you find from that?
This America changes, like just culturally and politically. Like if you've grown up on the West Coast and you go to the far Northeast and you've never been there, it's like going to a different country.
Mm-hmm.
You
How
know, and
so? What is it like out there versus
just the
over
whole
here?
culture is different. Their version of America isn't your version.
Huh.
They dress different, they talk different, the houses are different. The weather, the agriculture, the everything, the whole design of the town is different. The way they think, their laws,
Hmm.
everything's just so. I mean, you could go one state over and like, oh yeah, the laws change. You go 50 states over, they change drastically.
Right, man. So you come back to Sacramento, and then that's when you get into wrestling. You start doing those things. Why did you hook up with SPW versus some of the other places? Was it just the only place you knew?
SPW was in Sacramento, and I lived there at the time. That was the only place to train.
Hmm. Was that when they were training in the garage or in the backyard, or when was that when they were
I
training?
trained with CJ at his garage, and then I trained at the backyard at Kratos' place
Mm-hmm.
with him and Cobb.
Hmm.
And then it's when they dropped training down to they were going to train once a month before shows. And I just started training at Stoner U because I was already hitting my wall at SPW. Like you can only it's been my problem with wrestling schools. You can only learn so much.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, it's repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
There's no more evolution. It starts becoming a monotony, repetition, repetition. Which repetition's good for conditioning and learning, but if you're not learning more, then I start going to other wrestling schools, and they have a whole different philosophy, different drills, different spots, different. They specialize in different things, and learn what I could, and then I'd go to another school and learn what I could, and I got a lot of one-on-one time too. It's not just schools, but I'd have one-on-one time with like Big Ugly or Mustafa Saeed, or be in
Mm-hmm.
the ring with Ricky Banderas, Mecha Wolf, Bestia 666, and just saw all this one-on-one time. Alberto Del Rio,
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah,
I had a
that's
lot of
awesome.
training. I wasn't just like I went to one school. I went to a few different schools. I worked with a lot of great vets. A lot of people who made it to the top. A lot of people you've never heard of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had a
You know,
lot of MMA coaches.
well, working with first of all, Mustafa Saeed is one of the coolest people I know. I met him and just a real class act. I really liked him a lot. How'd you like training with him?
It was cool. We would show like Mustafa.
Yeah, and then working
There's,
at Stoner U probably had to been good because those are bigger guys, kind of a
yeah,
more what you're dealing with, right?
that was just more my style in general at the time.
Mm-hmm. Man.
That at that particular time at Stoner U was a very magical time. I don't think it's ever been like that since because everyone there was really hungry.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, people were just coming to wrestle and pay for wrestling school so they had a place to hang out or to look cool or say they were a part of something. Like everyone there was really, really hungry.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be good. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to try. I took it very serious. I still take it serious. I take it all
Mm-hmm.
serious.
Mm-hmm.
So Steven Tresario, he was there. He takes it serious. Shotzi was there. She took it serious. Manny Favorino. There were other people there. The twins were they had a really good class, so they were motivated, at that time and really dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
They had people that wanted it, wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good learning environment.
So if people were were coming to you and asking you for advice or getting into the business, what's the one piece of advice you would give them?
Go to a wrestling school.
But you know,
But
that's
I'd
interesting.
also tell them, like, don't. It's okay to train other places too. You know, like you want to, like, wrestling. I've always viewed wrestling kind of like it's like kung fu. You know, and what I mean by that is, like, there isn't one form of kung fu. There's hundreds of forms of kung fu. In order to be a master, you know, you got to go learn a series of different styles to be really good. You
Yeah.
know, that's just whether it's lucha, you know, American traditional, Gaga style, shoot style, TV style, you know, Japanese strong style, Filipino technical style. You know, there's all these different ways, you know, of wrestling, and that's where a lot of people hit a wall. Is because, like, yeah, I went to school, I was trained, this is how you do it. Then you drop them off in a whole different region with a whole different style of wrestling, and they're dropping the ball, they're lost on the sauce. Or even worse, you go take them to Mexico to learn lucha, where everything's backwards. They lock up to the right, everything's to the right. You know, what you know about psychology doesn't exist there. It's all different, you know. And if you don't know that, you're going to get exposed quick, and or, you know, you're getting your ass handed to you, you're getting your ass handed to you by a bunch of luchadors, and they'll fuck your ass up.
Right, right. So, also, you know, you have always been one who is big on fitness, and for some reason, I would say here in NorCal, especially, maybe everywhere, that doesn't really carry over in indie wrestling too much.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
you
why
know,
most of them don't go anywhere either.
yeah.
There's
So,
everyone at the top. I mean, I'm not even going to say any names. I don't have to name drop this. But if you work for any major companies or you talk to anybody major in the business, they'll break down the three things it takes to be, you know, a good wrestler. One is what you look like. Two is how good you could talk. Three is how good you could wrestle. You
mhm,
know, how good you could wrestle is the least important.
mhm,
Like
mhm,
I told you, like earlier, like when I got booked originally everywhere, they didn't know I could wrestle. They booked me off
mhm,
what it looked like. And the most
mhm,
important thing is what you look like. Your
mhm.
initial, when you walk out the curtain, how are you going to captivate attention? You know, I walk out, people, you know, look like I'm an evil comic book character. You can't look away. I'm right out of a comic. It's like, holy crap, Brian Cage walks out, he's bigger in life. You know,
Right.
Hammer still, like a lot of those body guys, I'm using body guys because those guys walk out and they have your attention. You know, you
Right.
instantly have your attention. You know, if you walk out and you look like shit, you know, you look like someone who works at McDonald's or you're serving tacos at Taco Bell, you know, a skinny fat kid, you know, just nothing going on. When you walk out, no one's out the gate, no one takes you serious. You know, this is when you're wrestling, they're looking at their phones, they're going to the bathroom, they're going to get concessions, they're looking at merch. You know, you haven't captivated their attention. You know, talking, you have to be able to talk. You have to look good. You have to talk, and you have to be good at wrestling. Talk what you look like being the most important. Talking being the second. You know, I could talk really well. You're listening. I got your attention. You know how good you could wrestle. If you can't lock in the first two, it doesn't matter if you could wrestle.
Right.
You know, there's a
Now,
lot of great wrestlers in NorCal, for freaking phenomenally talented wrestlers that have never gone anywhere and never will because they're built like a carton of milk, or they're just built like a pencil. And you can tell them,
mhm,
like, hey, you should work out. Like, oh no, wrestling's all I need. It's like, okay, well, I'll check on you in a couple of years. I'll see where I'm at. We'll see where you're at, and we'll see what worked for who. You know, where
right.
I'm at, everything's worked out pretty consistently and okay. You know, I have no regrets. I'm really happy with the career I've had. I bought a house. Like, I made enough money to buy a house. So I
Mhm,
can, you know, some people are happy if they can put food on the table. It's a great thing. But if you could do things like buy a home, I've never been signed. I've never been under a contract for any major company, you know, but because of that, that's why I'm one of the top paid independent talents on the planet. You know, I didn't
mhm.
care about fame. I cared about my fortune.
Right. Now, you know, it's interesting. I just had this conversation. I just did a podcast with Axe and Smash and Demolition, Bill Eadie and Barry Darso. We were talking about, you know, this very thing. You know, we were talking about how it really doesn't matter a lot how much you can, you know, you don't have to do a lot to get
Mm-mm.
over. And it's interesting because we were talking about it and I was talking with my son about it. You know, the biggest names in this business really didn't wrestle that much. I mean, Hulk Hogan, didn't really have to do much. Bill Goldberg, the Ultimate Warrior. These are names that everybody knows
The
who
Rock, Stone Cold,
right,
Undertaker. Like it was all gimmick work. They didn't do a lot. They didn't
right.
have to. They had the
Yeah.
crowd. If you could work the crowd, I mean, I do. Like everyone thinks, like, oh, Super Beast, big power. I mean, I do a couple things, you know. And that's unless it's like a big show, a big match, or you know, TV. If you're talking like house shows, it's all work. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
A lot of
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Well, and even I was saying, even Roman Reigns and Randy Orton, they don't, they don't do much, and they're the most over guys on the show. And so it's interesting to see these guys who are doing all the flips and doing all of the, you know, all those things that really aren't necessary.
They don't, it's not that it's not necessary. It's just too much of it, you know, and it just doesn't. It's just too much. They get more wrapped up with trying to go viral, you know, than they are working the crowd. The crowd's never. They don't ever. They're too busy running spot to spot to get the crowd going, to get them worked up, fire the crowd, you know,
Mhm.
get that crowd engagement. That's really what starts getting them to come back to make money and sell
Mhm.
tickets. Because it's not about going viral. It's, you know, how much money could you make? I don't
Mhm.
just mean like how much can you pay me as a wrestler. That's all based off how much money I can make you. You know, like if
Mhm.
you're booking me at your show and you're making a whole 80, $120 off me, I got a lot of audacity asking for $200. You
Right.
know, but if I'm coming to your show and you're making $400 to $500 off ticket sales, you're making a couple $100 off merch sales, a couple $100 off concession sales. You know, views are going up. You know, online ticket sales go up, so on and so forth. And I ask you for $400. Now that makes sense.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
That people that's what's not. A lot of kids don't get. It's like how much money can I make this guy so you can pay me more money.
Right.
And
Right.
that's not, can I get signed or who do I talk to get on a bigger show? You could work the indies. You could work low end shows like, you know, movie
Mhm.
theater shows, drive-in theater shows, flea market
Mhm.
shows,
Mhm.
you know, VFWs, you know, ones that draw half decent. But if you sell good merch, you know, and you draw, you'll always have a job. You'll always get used for something bigger. Like, you
Mhm.
know, if you go overseas, like, you know, that's one thing wrestling in Mexico and wrestling overseas is a lot bigger than it is here. Like wrestling's very small here, you know,
Mhm.
which you go to Mexico, you're wrestling in front of a small show's 2,000 people.
Mhm.
You know, then you come
Mhm.
back here, a small show's 20 people.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
so that's where it gets a little hard, you know, especially if like I moved to Mexico. I didn't come back to America. That's why I got over so hard. I was living in the country. I was making
Mhm.
so many pesos. You know, I was able to
Right.
live really good, save my money, and you know, I make more money there than I do in America. So it's kind of hard to take bookings in America unless it's someplace I want to work. Like there has
Sure.
to be a marketing value. Like if you can't pay me, you know, if there's like a marketing value, like if it's a company that gets a lot of exposure, a lot of names, I'm going to get good opponents. Yeah, you know, we can work something out. I'll go do that because that's that right there, that footage, that content, it's going to circulate fast. I'll get seen more. My overall value goes up. You know,
Yeah.
and I'll find
Yeah.
and people, there are the people that charge you, and I can keep charging them.
So this is what I think is really interesting though about you, and I want to explore this a little bit. Your mentality is so different than most people. Like this mentality of I'm not a victim. Yeah, okay. I went overseas and sure, maybe I have PTSD. So does everybody. Who cares? Uh, you know, you seem to have had this your whole life, but how do you get somebody? How can you help somebody learn the way your mentality works?
I just ask them over and over, dude, or I just tell them, don't be a bitch. You know,
Uh-huh.
one thing about wrestling, you know, it doesn't have a I'm not talking about female talent. You know, there's wrestling has its female talent, and wrestling does have a lot of bitches in it. And I'm not
Mhm.
talking about the girls. You know, there's just
Right.
people that feel sorry for themselves. You could be a victim. I didn't grow up that way. I didn't grow
Mhm.
up with mommy and daddy, you know, patting my ass, telling me. I grew up alone. Like, you
Mhm.
know, I lived my life pretty much alone. Like I'd spend most of my time alone. Not to be confused with lonely. I'm not a lonely person. I've been spend most of my time alone. I got a dog, you know what I mean? I don't like being around people. They weird
Mhm.
me out. I like my friends, you know, but even still I don't hang out. My friends don't see me very often. Like I'm just that weird loner hermit that eats, sleeps, works out and travels, and when I am home I don't leave my house because I'm always gone. Like I'm gone, I'm gone, I'm gone. I got home the other day and people are calling me, hey man, you want to go to the movies? Or hey, we're having a barbecue. Hey, we're over here doing this. You want to come over? And it's like, no, like I don't want to leave my house at all. I don't even go out to eat. I don't leave my house unless I'm going to the gym.
Mm-hmm. And you know, why do you think that is?
I'm just very weird with my time. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm older, it's not like I went through my hangout phases, where I want to hang out with my friends and do all that, but I'm older now. And so
Mm-hmm.
time's very important. You know what I mean? Getting things done, paying my bills, how I use my finances, how I use money to make my money,
Mm-hmm.
what I put my time into, it all matters. Like it all matters.
Yeah. So, do you tell I mean, when other people come to you, because I know that you're a guy who, even though you are a bit of a loner, you are judicious with your time and your advice. You always seem to be willing to give it if somebody legitimately wants to know things.
If they
And
want to
so,
know, I'll tell them. I don't, I'm not withholding, secrets of success. Like I'll tell you what worked for me. And I could tell them, like, just looking at what you do with your life, I could see how this wouldn't work for you. If you try this,
Mhm.
this, and this, things would be different. If they choose to listen, that's on them.
Mhm.
I've given people, I've met complete assholes. They'd ask me, man, Crotte, what do I do? Hey, Superbeast, how do I do it? I need advice. What do I do? What do I do? It's like, so they'll ask, and I'll tell them, you do this, this, and this. And then
Mhm.
they go and go, like, cool, great. And they go write about what they were doing like an asshole. They just asked and were a complete asshole about it. An asshole. And
Mhm.
I mean, that's more often than not. People come and ask for advice. They're like, your life seems like it's working, or you're together in this area. What is it that you're doing? It's like, well, do you notice how you're out at the bars every weekend?
Mhm.
You don't have time to work out. You don't have time to have a second job. You don't have time to do housework. But I was like, but you're at a bar. You have time to go to a bar. You have time to sit on the couch for 3 hours a day watching TV. You have time to sleep, you sleep 12 hours on the weekends, sleeping in. Like I sleep 4 to 6 hours a night. And every day is Monday. I'm always
Mhm.
on go, like it's always go, go, go.
Right.
Unless I'm just exhausted. And I try to tell them that, and it's just they'll get up and they'll follow the same pattern they had before, and nothing changes, and they don't know why. And I can't. Once I explain it once, maybe twice, I'm not going to waste my energy anymore. But there's other people I've given advice to, and they followed it verbatim, even better than I did myself, and they went on to do cooler shit than me, made more money than me, and I was just like, well,
Yeah.
damn, if I would have followed my own advice to a T like they did, maybe I could have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
learning lesson for me then, it's like I could see my own faults, like where I backed off. And, there's nothing worse knowing like when you miss the mark in life, like when you set out to make a set amount of money or you had a goal you wanted to do and you missed that goal and laying in that bed that night. And it's one thing to try, put out 100% and fail. That's okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's just life. Life's not fair. It's another feeling to lay in bed knowing you gave out a whopping 70% and you
Mhm.
had more, but you held back and you failed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe if you'd done that extra, or knowing that if you did do it, the outcome would have been different.
Yeah.
You would have reached that accomplishment, that goal, whether it was a college degree or money or a bodybuilding competition, whatever, man, whatever it was. But laying in bed as a failure, knowing that I went balls to the wall and it hurts, but you'll still be able to sleep at night. Going to bed knowing you're a bitch that gave 70% and it ultimately was you who fucked you, you who sabotaged you costed you the W, costed you the win. That's a hard thing to sleep with at night because that's a
Yeah.
different kind of failure. That's
Yeah.
just the bad failure. That's the
Yeah.
one that just you really gotta like. So some people take that loss and they don't learn from it, and that's just who they are, and it's the world's fault. It's the
Yeah.
world's fault that I gave out 70% and I didn't get back the fame and riches and glory that I wanted. It's like nah,
Yeah.
it's definitely your fault. Like
Yeah.
you didn't go all in. You're all mad because you didn't get it all back because you didn't go all in. So
I
I'm
tell
not no
I tell my
sympathy.
I tell my kids that all the time, when we talk about their grades. And we'll sit there, and sometimes anyone who has kids or in high school, everybody knows the missing assignments. Oh, my teacher hasn't updated the grades, BS. And I always tell my kids, I go, listen, I don't care if you get a C or a B or an A. If you work, give yourself 100% and you get a C, I'm perfectly happy with that. What pisses me off is when I know you're giving 50% and you got a C and you could have had an A. That's what drives me nuts. And I
It's
think
good
that
you tell your kids that, because the adults that I deal with, their parents didn't tell them that, and that's why it's someone else's fault.
yeah. Yeah. And that's the problem too. I tend to be, and you seem to be the same way. I tend to be the kind of guy who, when something goes wrong, I look at myself first.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, what did I do wrong here? I must be the piece of crap here because this didn't work out. I feel like if I'm going to tout the successes, I got to take the failures, right?
Yeah, you got to own it all. You got to own it all.
Right. And even if there are external things that were against me, well, I still didn't get past those. I should have gotten past those, whatever they were.
You were depressed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's join the club. I was like, man, I couldn't get out of bed today. I was so depressed, and I just had to take the month off. I just look at it, I'm like, if I fucking ever did that in my life, I'd be homeless.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing.
Fucking homeless. Depression, it sucks, but that's why we have coping mechanisms. Nobody wants to talk about coping mechanisms and how to properly. They want to take a pill and they want an immediate cure. And so the depression's always existed. It's always going to exist. So all you can do is find healthy coping mechanisms. And I don't mean go to the bar and get fucked, because most people just get fucked up. They get drunk, do drugs, or develop some form of bad habit. But if you could just, hey man, my life's falling apart. Like, all I do is I get up and I work out 20 times a day. That's how I cope. And it may not be it's not healthy, but hey, it's healthier.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, dude. In fact, I'll tell you the story. I don't think you know this one, but for me, in 2018, I got in a car accident and had a concussion, and I'm a lawyer. And so, that really messed up my career, right? I couldn't work for a couple of months. And then when I got back in, I started going in real slowly and all this stuff, and things were kind of going out of whack. And a doctor actually told me there's a chance I might not be able to be an attorney again. And what's interesting about that, there was some religious component to that. I did a lot of prayer and reading scriptures and stuff. What can I control? What can I not? But part of that story is I saw Mike Rain, you, Johnny Butabi, Riv, like all these different people who were posting gym pics of themselves and getting into just getting into shape. And I thought to myself, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, well, one thing I can control is what I put in my body, and I can go to the gym. And for about 15 years, I never really did, because I was so busy with other things. I know I should have made the time, but I just, with kids and work and law and doing all that stuff. And I could not emphasize my mental health flipped like that as soon as I started doing a little bit of cardio and pushing a little bit of weights. And then suddenly, next thing you know, now I'm 6 days a week, and it's just part of the regimen at 5 a.m. every single day. Yeah. And so I wish more people understood that they had the power to get past that stuff. I don't know how to give that to some people. Maybe you just can't.
If you can't, they want it. I gotta walk out and see if my Uber Eats is here. I'll take you with me though.
That's cool, man.
The dungeon of the Superbeast.
There you go.
This is what my house looks like.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
it reminds me a little bit of Rob Zombie's house.
Yeah.
And I just saw the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade. That's awesome.
Yeah, I got it.
That's one of my favorites right there. So I got that one. I got that one too.
Jabronis. All right, girl, come on. Oh, there it is. You put it on the fucking counter.
So now while we're sitting here talking, I want to ask you a couple of questions that I ask everybody, and this is just a view, and we'll do this as kind of a wrap up. First, what would you say if you could check it down to one thing? What's your biggest success in life?
My biggest success in life?
Yeah.
It's a hard question. I think the best answer I could give is just being me, like unauthentically and unapologetically, through thick and thin, through the good times, when an ego should grow, or the bad times when you should fall apart. I think my biggest success is I've always managed to maintain myself.
Mm. Why, that's interesting. Living an authentic life like that. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people are playing to what they think people want to see. And,
Yeah.
and I think there is something to that about happiness and being is just being authentically who you really are.
No, because it's not, most people, they change. Or,
Mhm.
they change for one reason or another. They change, peer pressure will change them. Or they'll get money, it'll change them. Fame will change people, and education, or, you know, then they'll change everything about themselves. The type of friends they have, how they dress, and so on and so forth. And I've literally been the same person since I was 9.
I have the same enjoyment, the same things I loved when I was 5 or 6, and the same things I enjoy now. So
I dress the same. I literally listen to the same music. All I do is read comic books.
nice. That's awesome. So, next question: what do you think is your biggest failure in life, and what did you learn from it?
Man, that's even harder question. I don't feel like I have like a Rolodex of failures, but
That's why I add in the "what did you learn from it?" because it's not a failure if you learn something from the way it happened.
I don't really think I have a major failure. I don't think I ever, anything I didn't win. I mean, I haven't really failed at anything. To be honest, I'm trying to think whether it was school, what I set to do in sport, or
Hmm.
was a soldier.
Yeah. Did you end up going to college, or did you
Yeah.
use that job? What'd you get your degree in?
Psychology.
No
I
kidding.
minored in business and got a bachelor's in psychology that I never
Wow.
used.
that's most degrees. Okay, so last question before I wrap up. One day, way down the road, uh, you're going to pass away, and when you do, there'll be a funeral and a eulogy. What's one thing you hope they say about you in your eulogy?
Mm. He wasn't a bitch.
I like that. I
Man of his
like that.
word. I stood on my business. I didn't take shit. Even if I wouldn't take shit from anybody, even if it meant I was going to get my ass whooped, I wouldn't take
Yeah.
shit. I'll see
Yeah.
that whole. I'll swallow a gallon of blood before an ounce of my pride. Before I let you belittle me, and
Yeah.
it's my own small man complex I've had since I was a child.
Well, I think there's some things that you got to be willing to take a whipping for, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I remember telling my kid, he told me this story, and he wasn't there, but he told me a story about there were these 4 kids in his school who apparently there was a mentally handicapped girl, and they had like locked her in an elevator or something like that. And I was like, if you ever see that happening, I fully expect you
To hit him.
to do whatever you need to do. And he goes, well, what if there's 4 of them? And I was like, I'd rather get my ass kicked than watch that happen,
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, there are those times for sure. And so, well, Super Beast, where can people find you if they want to follow you?
On IG, I am the Superbeast. Like I am the Superbeast.
Okay.
That's the only place.
Okay, awesome.
I
And if is that where people contact you for bookings and everything?
Yeah, if they can, or if they know someone, the odds are they know someone who knows me.
Awesome.
But,
Awesome, man.
if you want, hit me up. I'm not free and I'm not cheap and I'm not desperate. So, yeah, reach out if you want or don't. I'm cool either way.
Right on, man. Well, for those who are listening, follow the Super Beast. We'll have to have you on again, man. I'd love to have like you and Riv and a lot of those, the guys.
Riv's my, I don't know if you know the story between me and that guy.
No, I mean, I know he came and stayed with you. I know that.
No, I can just to touch up on his story. I first met Riv. Fucking goddamn. 12, 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a big old fat dude. Drunk. And we had a conversation one night because I was more concerned, I'm more of the make money. Don't worry about being booked, more so how am I getting paid? Where's the money at? I'm not into the lights and glamour. And the first conversation we'd ever had was how he was content just making ends meet. It doesn't matter if he got paid. And we were talking about he was military and his benefits and things like that. And it just wasn't a priority. When I asked him if he was happy, yeah, man, I'm happy. And then that life that he had, he ran into, some stupid stuff got thrown in his direction. And the life that he had pretty much turned on him, and all the people in it. And that's when we really started talking. I really started getting in his head about his health and working out and his VA. And he was one of those dudes that I gave some really good life advice to, and he really, really listened.
Mm-hmm.
And now he went from a fat, drunk cokehead that made little to no money, had nothing going on, wrestled only in NorCal, Bay Area and whatnot. And then fast forward time, now we both live in Las Vegas. We're both jacked. We're both ripped. We both own our homes. Going to school. His life. All those little things. The directions I pointed him in, he took the initiative and he put one foot in front of the other, and he made it. I pointed him, but he went and did the work, and he made it happen. And he's made serious moves, and he's pretty much like me now.
Yeah.
Life's good. He's not worried. But plus, his wrestling got better. Now he's wrestling in Canada. He's wrestling in Colorado. His wrestling career. And eventually, because his body got good, he looked the part. He became a better wrestler, looked like a wrestler. Now he's freaking booked all over America, working out of the country, more so than he was when he was a drunk cokehead who worked NorCal, who made no money.
Right. And that's the thing, man. And that's it was that change in mindset that you have, I think, that really pushed that. And now he's another one of those guys who's out there really kind of pushing for other people to be accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that we need more of that, man. I really appreciate that. And so, well, listen, man, we're going to have you guys back on. We'll have to do one where both of you come on and really, really just kind of whip everybody into shape for us. You know what I mean?
I'm jiggy with it. Let me know.
All right, man. Well, for everyone listening, subscribe, follow Superbeast. We'll talk to you later.
Later, big dog.